Kicking a soccer ball towards the goal and running around a track are typical activities for most children growing up. But for children who are blind or visually impaired, opportunities to play sports can be severely limited, and in school during phys ed classes, these students often are left sitting on the sidelines. There's a special camp working to change all that by giving children with sensory impairments a chance to push through boundaries and grow their confidence, while at the same time training college students how to do a good job when they eventually work with students in physical education classes. That's all up next on Still Time for Joy, where we share practical advice for weathering life's storms and inspiring stories of resilience. Hello, I'm Sandra Levine, host of Still Time for Joy. My guest today is Alex Stribing, an assistant professor at Kean University in New Jersey who has a Ph.D. in motor behavior and special education and who runs Camp Abilities in Toms River, New Jersey. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Hi, Sandy. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
So I understand Camp Abilities started in SUNY Brockport in 1996, and now there are some 30 camps in the United States and in other parts of the world. What is the mission of Camp Abilities?
Dr. Lauren Lieberman and Dr. Monica Lepore started camp back in 1996, and when they created camp, they came up with three main purposes for Camp Abilities. And the first and one of the most important missions of camp is to really empower youth with visual impairment and blindness through physical activity and sport. And then the second purpose or mission of camp is to train and educate undergraduate students, graduate students, and also professionals that are already in the field and how to teach kids with visual impairments in a physical activity and physical education setting. And then lastly, the other mission was to continue and expand research in the area of physical activity, sport, physical education within the realm of visual impairment and blindness.
So that's brilliant, actually. The campers are getting this wonderful experience. Some of them may have never played some of these sports before. And then the counselors are getting excellent training for when they eventually teach students. So you do your camp at Field of Dreams in Toms River, New Jersey. And if anybody wants to know more about Field of Dreams, you can watch another episode of Still Time for Joy about this wonderful recreational complex for people with special needs. Just tell me quickly just a little bit about Field of Dreams, Alex.
Yeah, Field of Dreams was created by Christian Kane and his family, and they wanted a safe and inclusive space for people with disabilities to go to and enjoy, just like their counterparts without disabilities. So at the Field of Dreams, it's a big outdoor space. They have a huge playground that is inclusive for everybody. They have a basketball court. They have a mini golf area, they have a turf field, they have fitness stuff, a quiet space, a pavilion, and so much more. And so there's so much opportunity there for families and people with disabilities.
So it's actually the perfect place for you to hold your camp. Tell me, how does Camp Abilities work?
Yeah, so Camp Abilities is an educational sports camp for youth with visual impairment and blindness, and for the Camp Abilities that's held at the Field of Dreams, we take kids ages 9 to 19, and it's a 3-day sports camp from 9 to 3, and we play a bunch of different blind sports. And each of the athletes, we call them athletes instead of campers, the athletes are paired with a one-to-one coach. So they have that one-to-one instruction throughout the whole time of camp. So the coaches are there to provide feedback and help them really succeed in those sports. Our two main sports that we do at Camp Abilities, Kean University, at the Field of Dreams are blind soccer and track and field. And then in the afternoon, we like to give the athletes a choice between so many different sports that they might see out in their community or in physical education. And those can range from basketball, football, disc golf, mini golf, bocce, and so much more.
Blind soccer, help people understand, how does this work?
Blind soccer is a really cool sport because it's actually going to be in the USA is going to have a Paralympic team for blind soccer. So it's really cool that we're like starting to train them young here at Camp Abilities. But for blind soccer, just like many blind sports, it's a lot of sound. So in the soccer ball, there's rattles or bells in the ball. So when the ball moves, the athletes and the players can hear the ball move. And also, there's a lot of coaches on the sides of the field directing the players where to go, where the defenders are, where the ball is. And what the goalies in soccer are actually somewhat sighted. So they are also communicating to their teammates on where to move and where to go to try to score a point.
And how about track and field?
For track and field at camp, we do both running events and we do throwing events like shot put and discus. And for running, we use what's called a tether, and it's actually quite simple. It's just a piece of rope with 2 knots on the end, and the sighted runner will hold on to the one side of the rope, and then the blind athlete will hold on to the other side, and they just have to sync up and run together, and that tether connects them. And then when it comes to throwing events like discus and shot put, it's a lot of sound. So they're throwing out to a sound source so they know where to throw the shot put or the discus. And it's a lot of hand over hand teaching. So it's a lot of our coaches helping them go through the movement so they're doing the correct, they're having the correct form.
So, have some of these athletes never participated in any sports like this in their lives?
Camp Abilities is fairly new to the state of New Jersey. When it comes to the athletes that are coming to camp, I would say majority of them have not participated in these sports before, nor have they been even given the opportunity to really learn these motor skills that are in these sports. And so it's really nice that we are building that foundation at Camp Abilities.
So, in addition to the fact that they may not be getting as much physical activity as they should in the school setting, I understand parents can actually also sometimes unwittingly hold their children back out of fear that they're going to hurt themselves. What role do parents' fears play in how far and what challenges children with visual impairments are able to experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, we call the parents critical choice agents because they are providing all and any opportunities that they give to their kids with visual impairments. And the kids really are relying on their parents as well. And so what we've been seeing is that parents are actually very fearful that their kids are going to get hurt in activity, which hinders the child in participating in sports. And so it's important that we are having the parents involved in Camp Abilities in some way because it shows them that they are able to participate in sports safely and showing them how to work with their kids in sports so that the risk of injury is not as high.
And what kind of barriers do children with blindness or visual impairments face in addition to not having enough physical activity? I'm sure there are many other challenges in society that they faced. Talk to me about a few of them.
Yeah, you totally just said it right there. I think for kids with visual impairments and blindness, and even just people with visual impairment and blindness in general, society is the biggest barrier. Somebody sees a person that is blind and automatically thinks that they can't do something just like their counterparts without visual impairment or blindness. So I think that's the biggest thing. And it almost is like systemic in a way, because once society says that people with visual impairments can't do something, then the kids see that and they start lacking confidence in themselves, and people are starting to do things for them and they're losing their independence. And also I think that totally works in with their self-esteem and their self-worth, and they don't feel like they are as good as somebody without a visual impairment or blindness. So those are, I think, the few like big ones when it comes to different barriers or challenges that, you know, kids face with visual impairment. But another huge thing and another reason why we do camp is because kids with visual impairments don't have the same opportunities, and there's a lack of resources out there for them. And so that's another reason why we have camp, just to be another resource for families and for the youth.
What could we be doing differently? I'm sure there are many things, but pick just a couple.
I think the big one is, you know, creating inclusive programs for kids with visual impairments and blindness to participate in, just like Camp Abilities. Having these programs for the parents so that their kids can go and learn sports just like everybody else. There's so many benefits and things that we see from the start of the camp to the end of the camp. And the first one would be their confidence. You can see a total confidence boost from day 1 to day 3 in their ability to just dribble a soccer ball from one side of the field or the pitch to the other side, or just running with their coach. There's such a huge confidence boost. And another thing that we see is that there are so many friendships being built at camp because they are around other kids just like them. And it's not really typical to see in their classrooms at school. So they get to build friendships with these kids, with these other athletes, which also gets them to come back every year because it's a time that they can have fun and be with their friends, feel safe, not get bullied or made fun of. And so it's just a great overall experience. And it's not just all about the sports, it's about the friendships and confidence that are growing every day.
And how about the parents? I bet you the parents come away with a little bit of a different attitude or new knowledge after camp. What do you see in the parents?
I could only go by from like what they tell me at the end of camp. You know, they'll always thank me and everything. And I just got to say this, I don't do it for the thank yous or for that. You know, I do it because this is a need and this is what should be done. But if they're there thanking me, they know that they are already seeing a difference in their child. And they're already telling me we can't wait for next year. And they communicate with me throughout the year. And something that's kind of cool is that I have such good communication with our families that they're always inviting me to go to the schools and talk to their PE teachers and get involved so their kids could have that same experience that they have at camp in their schools as well.
What about the counselors? The counselors are your students. These are college students who are majoring in what?
I would say majority of them are physical education. We do get some in special education. We get some in physical therapy, OT, but I would say majority of them are my students in physical education.
And it's a huge difference between studying things in a textbook and listening in a lecture and actually having this incredible hands-on interaction with these athletes at this camp. What do you see in the counselors?
I see a huge improvement. I just like the kids, how they build the confidence. You can see the confidence in the coaches. They come in day 1 like not knowing what to do. We do a whole day of training with them on how to interact with kids with visual impairment and blindness. We do a whole training on how to teach the skills, cueing, verbal cueing and feedback and all that stuff. And so you just see them become more confident in their ability that when they go out in the field one day and they have their own classroom of their own, they will have the kids with visual impairment and blindness in their class participating with the whole class and all of their other peers. It also brings awareness to the coaches that kids with visual impairments can do all the things that we're doing at camp in the schools. A lot of time coaches will come in just unsure or uneasy about it and just are not aware of the disability type or just not aware that they can do it. And so it also brings awareness to the coaches as well.
What should the general public know about interacting with somebody who is visually impaired or blind? I think a lot of times people don't know what to do, they want to rush in to help, what should we really do?
Yeah, that's a great question. When it comes to visual impairment and blindness, communication is key. Always communicating. So if you want to go up and talk with somebody who is blind, always say who you are. Introduce yourself. Give them your name. Never try to make it a guessing game. It makes, I'm not a person with a visual impairment, but I know that, and I've heard that it doesn't make them feel good. And so really just introduce yourself, say who you are. Don't assume that they need help. You see somebody on the street, a cane user, and don't just assume like, here, let me help you. Always ask, because they may just want to be able to do it by themselves. So always ask before you do something. And if you're ever in a conversation with somebody who is blind or visually impaired, always make sure you tell them that you're walking away or leaving. And I saw this the other day. I was in the gym. I was in Crunch Fitness, and I saw somebody working with somebody who was blind, a cane user, and just started walking away. And the guy was still talking to the coach. And I'm like, oh no. So you always want to say that you are, leaving or walking away from the conversation.
Well, those are some very great, simple tips that I appreciate you sharing with us. So why is this such a passion for you, Alex? Where did that come from?
There is so much passion behind this, and really the reason why I got into this. And, I think the main reason is I had an uncle who was blind, and he was a cane user. He had a rare disease that caused the blindness, and he was involved in local Lions clubs and in the community, and he was so independent. And it was something that I wanted to, share with the athletes, with the coaches, with everybody. And I think that's why I really got involved in visual impairment and blindness. I just wanted to change people's perspectives on people with blindness and visual impairment. Just remembering my uncle, and he was so independent, and he was so involved in the community. I wanted people to see that people with visual impairment and blindness can do whatever, can be independent, can be involved in anything and everything. And I think that's where the motivation came from. Another main reason was my advisor at SUNY Brockport, Dr. Lauren Lieberman, one of the co-founders of Camp Abilities. She is my mentor, and all the experiences she gave to me at Brockport with Camp Abilities and just other programs of working with kids with disabilities in general. She's another huge reason why I got into this field, and one of the main reasons why I do what I do.
And how do you feel when you've had camp for 3 days? I'm sure there's a lot that goes into getting prepared for it, setting it up, getting the campers to come, getting the facility. When you get there and you see these children who may have never participated in sports before, having a chance to learn that they can accomplish these things, how does that make you feel?
What I feel at the end of the 3 days of camp, do I feel proud? I feel proud. I feel proud of everybody that was involved. Not me, but of the athletes and the coaches. But I feel like we did it. We're doing the right thing. We are bringing awareness to everybody involved. And it's not just about the athletes, it's the coaches. It's a whole community thing. Because people come and they visit camp and they see that, wow, like this is it. Like kids can do this. And so at the end of 3 days, I just feel like we won. Like we're doing what we are supposed to be doing. I feel amazing. I feel amazing that we are providing this opportunity for our athletes and our coaches and seeing them grow day to day. I feel proud of the athletes who may have never tried a sport that are trying it. And I feel proud of the coaches who may have never even interacted with somebody that has a visual impairment, and they're doing it for the first time. And so after the end of 3 days, it's a great feeling that we're bringing awareness and and that we're doing the right thing.
You're making a difference. You're moving.
Making a
You're
difference.
moving us in the right direction, right? We have a long way to
Totally.
go, though. Would you say we have a long way to go?
A long, long way to go. Yes, yes.
So, how can people support Camp Abilities? Do you need donations to help campers attend, or what is it that you need?
Camp runs fully on grants and donations, and so we could take monetary donations, but also we feed all the coaches and athletes throughout the 3 days of camp, and so food donations also works. We always need volunteers. If you are interested in volunteering in any way, being a coach or helping with lunch or registration or any of that, we are always looking for people to help. It's something that works, and it's empowering the kids, it's educating the coaches, and we continue to explore the research in this area and expanding the research in this area to help people with visual impairments be successful and included in sport.
So, do you feel that you've accomplished your own goal of helping to spread awareness based on your experience with your uncle?
Yeah, when I first came to New Jersey, there was not a Camp Abilities in the state, and we started the first Camp Abilities at the Field of Dreams, and that was a huge goal of mine, to continue the growth of camp and supporting and empowering and advocating and all that stuff. And I feel like I am one step in the right direction.
Alex Stribing, it sounds like you're doing wonderful things at Camp Abilities, where you're the director and the assistant professor at Kean University. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you found today's show helpful, please share the information with someone who needs it, and follow Still Time for Joy for more practical tips on weathering life's storms, as well as inspiring stories of people who have turned their pain into purpose. Please consider supporting the work that goes into producing the show on Patreon. Follow Sandra Levine Productions on Facebook and YouTube, and learn more at sandralevine.com.